Okay, yes, fine. Let me start off by saying I perhaps baited you all a bit with this video title as well. The second installment of Sony's incredibly forced Spider-Man universe, or whatever it's actually called, is not quite garbage, but it's not exactly great either. Venom, Let There Be Carnage, or for the sake of this review, let's just go with Venom 2, Symbiotic Gloopaloo.
Let's call it Chardy McDennis 2, Electric Boogaloo.
Alright, fine, Venom 2 sees our boy Tom Hardy back again as Eddie Brock, talking to himself like a lunatic, and generally just turning his entire life into a car crash at the expense of his internally cohabiting roommate Venom, who also happens to be an alien parasite. After botching an interview with the now wigless, notorious serial killer Cletus Cassidy, played by Woody Harrelson, Eddie eventually receives a second chance, which leads to him somehow managing to get himself back on track whilst also simultaneously setting himself up for another colossal fail in the process. Pretty impressive if you ask me. From here, the movie basically sets up two relationship stories which inevitably collide in the third act. One of a murderous true love, and the other of a very cookie-cutter rom-com-esque breakup that eventually leads to the characters realising they need one another. Honestly, I was sort of rooting for the former more than the latter. The whole needing one another to come to a better understanding and grow as a character shtick just felt a bit plot by numbers to me. It's also this section which really messed with the tone of this movie. Is this a comedy? Is it a buddy movie? Is it a tale of true love? Or is it a movie that feels like a rehash of those late 90s, early 2000s superhero movies that we sort of look back on with a mixture of nostalgia, fondness, and just pure cringe? I don't really know, and I can't really be asked to figure it out either. The title for this film is Let There Be Carnage, and to be honest, I agree. Please let there be carnage. He's severely underutilised in this movie to the point of feeling at times like he's barely in it. Harrelson is a decent casting choice for the role of the psychotic murderous Cletus Cassidy, but he just felt wasted to me. This point also rings true for the likes of Stephen Graham's Detective Mulligan, which, you know, I kind of guess is partially done to tease future stuff, but it still felt like a waste of a very talented actor. Same could be said also for Naomi Harris's Frances Barristan/Shriek, which again, she's alright considering that she's not really given much to work with. Carnage has always been a bit of a one-dimensional villain in the sense that he's basically the darkest iteration of the Venom symbiote combined with an irredeemably wicked and dark individual. Yet in this movie he just seems to lack even that quality. He just sort of exists, made into this weird vehicle to give the plot a villain to slap goo together with at the end. He isn't really explained to a general audience and his motivations aren't really shown at all. Even if those motivations in the comics are usually to just, well, cause carnage. What's worse is that his demise is so poorly executed that it makes his threat almost completely redundant. It also takes away from Venom being of any real use against one of his biggest adversaries. Look, that's as much as I'd like to talk about, even if I am a little bit late to the party here. I don't want to sort of give away spoilers, but for me it just felt like really lazy writing. Also, for a 15 or rated R film if you're not from the UK, it again falls some way short in my opinion, much like the first. For a psychopath wielding a bloodthirsty alien, there is little on the way of anything I'd deem properly graphic or violent enough to warrant its rating. That's without including the headbiting these characters are known for. I guess, on the flip side, it does have horror elements and a level of threat, as well as a rather well done Cassidy line-drawn flashback which delivers an allusion to violence in a fairly unique way. But I can't be the only one sat watching these characters wanting a little bit more, right? Right? Finally, we've got to talk about the runtime. Both of these movies have felt incredibly short. Now that's not necessarily a bad thing, especially considering in my opinion neither are particularly great movies. However, the issue here is that perhaps they are bad movies due to that runtime. Development in certain areas is lacking and the plot feels rushed and there's merely some sort of like vehicle to get the characters from start to finish as quickly as possible. The speedy runtime to me simply feels like a race to get these characters to collide with the big payday crossover over at Marvel, and obviously, you know, I'm sure by now people have seen what that link may be, but I'm not going to go into details here. But nevertheless, that's exactly what this feels like, and it's nothing more and nothing less. Overall, as I said before, this isn't a completely garbage movie. It has some entertainment value as far as popcorn action superhero flicks go, and yet again the cast itself are of decent ilk and appear to be trying with whatever they've been given to work with. It has some fun and entertaining sequences smattered throughout, and even with the tone feeling very off, the comedy does for the most part land where it's supposed to. If you enjoy Tom Hardy putting on crazy voices and chewing scenery, figuratively and, you know, quite literally, then you'll enjoy this for whatever it's supposed to be. He at least appears to be enjoying himself anyway, so that's nice, I guess. In my opinion, it's definitely better than the first, but I guess that isn't exactly saying much. Anyway, speaking of opinions, I'm sure you've probably already watched it by now, and if you haven't, why don't you just go watch it anyway and have your own? Or don't. I don't care. You do you, folks. If you have seen it, which you might have done by now, then let me know what you thought in the comments below, and if you enjoyed whatever this ramble was supposed to be, then please consider sticking around, subscribing, and chucking this video a like. Cheers! Also, before you go, if you want more Venom related stuff or just movie stuff in general, why not check out my new podcast, Movie Mouthfuls, with the UK's #1 competitive eater, Beard Meets Food. Each week we chow down on some of the most iconic and at sometimes probably the most loosely based cinematic cuisine scenes in history. A few weeks back we did 2018's Venom, which you can find in a link here or by searching for us on your favourite podcast player. Right, anyway, enough from me. Until my next Better Late Than Never video, have a good one, and I'll see you in a bit.